Thank you, President Scott, for this wonderful honor and that generous introduction, and also for allowing me to fulfill what has been a lifelong dream, which is to play the main stage at Ravinia. Can't believe I'm standing on the same stage that Lady Gaga did just a year ago. My thanks also to Chairman Parfit and the Lake Forest College Board of Trustees, to all the honored guests, faculty, staff, parents, and of course the class of 2016. I knew before I came here this morning of the long and proud tradition of Lake Forest College as one of the great liberal arts colleges in America, but I've learned so much more in just the time I've been here, and it's written in the faces of this wonderfully diverse class and in the powerful, powerful words of Khadija in that wonderful address. Let me be the first to wish all the moms here an early Happy Mother's Day. Needless to say, none of us would be here without you. I know you're all very proud to see your sons and daughters achieve this great milestone today, and some of you may be like my mom was, a little bit amazed as well. No need to identify yourselves. You know who you are. Graduates, let me tell you, you could not have given your moms a greater gift this day, and as you begin to pay off your student loans, you'll quickly realize you'll never give her a more expensive one. But you can be sure that the usual flowers and scarves or jewelry would not have elicited the same tears that they will shed today. So let me just make clear and be politically correct. There are a lot of dads with tears in their eyes too. And it wasn't long ago that I was one of them, sitting in ceremonies like this with moist eyes, with which I watched my own sons graduate from colleges. These passages, these watershed moments in our lives, are emotional for everyone involved. As a parent, you're filled with pride. But if you're like me, you're also wondering, what happened to that little boy I carried on my shoulders? Wasn't it just yesterday we dropped him off for freshman orientation, a wide-eyed kid filled with anxiety? Who's this confident young man striding across the stage? Where did the time go? I blinked and he was all grown up, and it tugs at your heart. It's a bittersweet day for you graduates, too. On the one hand, it's one of the great occasions in your lives, the culmination of years of effort and achievement. It's a very big deal. Take it from a guy who finished 5 incompletes and 4 courses in his final quarter of college and graduated. It was nothing short of a miracle that I actually graduated. On the other hand, it's also a day for painful goodbyes to friends, faculty, and this warm, embracing Lake Forest community. I remember my heart aching for my sons as we packed up the car and drove away, their college days receding in the rearview mirror. So it's a great day, but it's a tough day. Commencements are a beginning, but also an end. And I know, class of 2016, that as you leave here today with your newly minted degrees and friendships and experiences you'll cherish for a lifetime, as this important chapter of your life recedes into the rearview mirror, it's natural to wonder, what's next? What should I do now? What will my future be? For the first 21 or 22 years of your lives, your path was largely plotted out for you. But now it's up to you to chart your own course, which is exciting, it's exhilarating, and more than a little frightening. I know that some of you already have probably made plans. You've landed a job, which isn't always easy, or you've decided to take your education on to the next level. And either way, that's great. Good for you. Go for it, and go for it full throttle. But I'm also sure that many of you are still thinking, still searching, still wondering what that next chapter might be. And I want you to know that's okay too. You're probably getting a lot of advice to find a job that pays well or lends some sense of stability. You may be feeling a little pressure and anxiety as if you're somehow falling behind each day you wait to plot out your entire life. So here's my advice, as we used to say in New York: forget about it. Resist that pressure. Embrace the glorious fact that as you march out of here today and into the future, you are as mobile and as unfettered and free as you'll ever be to try things out, to find your passion, to chase your dreams. Don't even try to plot where you'll be in 30 years, because there's no way to know, and that's truer today than ever. The changing nature of our economy over the past couple of decades means that the traditional career paths that my parents knew, the starter job, the ladder climbing, the gold watch when you retire, that path is now largely defunct. Many of you will experience multiple careers, maybe even before you're 30. Of course, you have the responsibility to yourself and someday perhaps a family to find a means of support, and the degree you've earned today will help you lead a more comfortable life. But that's no guarantee of a happy and fulfilled life. As you set out on that next chapter, I urge you to pursue your passions, to chase your dreams, to seek the things that will fill your heart and soul and not just your bank account. Now, I know what you're thinking. That's easy for you to say, man. You work for the President of the United States. You've made it. Fair point. But I guarantee you, the day I walked across that stage at my graduation, sometime back in the Pleistocene age, the last thing I imagined was that I'd ever have an office in the West Wing at the White House. I didn't have any connections or money. My father had passed away when I was in college. I was really on my own in many ways. I had no plan that would lead me to the White House or all things that experience has made possible for me. What I had was a deep interest in the world around me, in politics, in writing. So even while I was still in college, I took some time off from school and went home to New York and knocked on 75 doors until I landed a job at a little community newspaper so down on its luck that they probably would have hired any eager soul who was willing to work for $50 a week, which is what they could afford to pay. And when I returned to school in Chicago, I parlayed that into another community newspaper job and then used my mounting stack of clips to get an internship that became a full-time job at the Chicago Tribune. And that was where my real education began. As a young reporter, I was underpaid and overworked and loved every minute of it. I would have worked 25 hours a day if I could. I spent the first years of my career working around the clock, covering all manner of murder, mayhem, and maniacs, many of whom were actually elected officials. But by the mid-1980s, journalism was changing. The businessmen began to take over the newsroom. The emphasis swung from veracity to velocity, from reporting to receipts. Belt-tightening squeezed out the passion. And just then, I was presented with a new opportunity, a new career. Here's what I learned. No matter how well you think you have your life plotted out, it tends to veer towards the unexpected. So I'm not suggesting that you don't write one of those 5-year plans like you're told to. I'm just suggesting do it in pencil. I say this because right around then, a politician I greatly admired named Paul Simon asked me to join his campaign for the United States Senate. All I'd have to do was give up a great title, a steady column I'd earned, and a bright future at the Tribune. And I said yes. One of my editors told me I'd destroyed my career. My friends told me I was nuts. My mother wouldn't speak to me. And there was some virtue to that, actually, for a while. But my heart told me it was time to chase new dreams. I ended up as a campaign manager, overseeing a 20-something staff that included a young guy named Rahm Emanuel. He had a way with words, too, though not all ones I would share in a commencement speech. And together, a team of young campaign warriors helped our candidate win a victory few thought possible. We enjoyed it so much that I decided to open a campaign media firm with a friend from the Simon team named Forrest Claypool, who today is Chief Executive Officer of the Chicago Public Schools. It was an audacious idea, considering that neither of us had ever made an ad, and that as a young father, I was financially more desperate than when I was looking for my first job. My wife, Susan, and I had no money and 2 young kids, one with a severe chronic condition, epilepsy, that required frequent hospitalizations and created frequent chaos in our lives. We didn't know if we'd make it or not. But Susan encouraged me like the saint she is, and we leveraged everything we had on that crazy dream. Over time, we won some races and we won some causes, but we lost some too. I've worked for mayors and governors and congressmen and senators and even a president. I've gotten to see how politics and government work from the outside and the inside. It was an incredible journey filled with wonderful relationships and rich learning. And here's the wildest part of it, and one I never anticipated. It actually turned out to be a pretty good living, too. You see, chasing your passion doesn't necessarily mean you have to take a vow of poverty. I've worked hard all my life, but I've never called what I do a job. I've never gone to work grudgingly because I am passionate about my work. But along the way, I learned something else. As rewarding as work like that can be, it's no substitute for friendships and family and the unconditional love they bring. These are things that no job can offer. That's the second point I want to make to you. Don't get so swept up in your trajectory that you break free from your anchors. Don't focus so heavily on making a living that you forget to make a life. My career path and my family life ran up against one another in 1992 when I received a call from the campaign manager for Governor Bill Clinton, who was closing in on the Democratic nomination for president. This was back in the day when experience in public office was a prerequisite for being president. So they asked me to come to Arkansas to become the campaign's communications director, and I thought, this is the dream job. But by then, Susan and I had 3 kids, and our daughter was still struggling every single day with epilepsy. Susan would have stood by me no matter what, I think, but I knew they needed me more than Bill Clinton. And I remembered something Susan told me as I started my firm. Don't be the one who misses out on your kids growing up. Don't be that one. That recollection made the choice surprisingly easy. I said no. I said no to the job that promised a very bright future. Because when I weighed it against what was most important to me, it wasn't even a close call. The one thing that you can always count on, the only thing, is the love of your friends and your family. Whether you win or lose, rise or fall, succeed or fail, and we all fail at times. Family and friends are our home base. That's what sustains us. So even as you seek your passion, leave time and room for those precious relationships. Keep time for your family. Hold tightly to the friends you've made. They'll guide you through the next step in your journey and beyond. And when you find that balance between making a living and making a life, all of you will be very rich. No matter how much money you have in the bank, you'll be happy whether you're a public celebrity or merely one in your own circle. My parting thought, a plea really, is this. Whatever you choose to do with your life, don't withdraw from your obligations to the larger community or lose faith that each of us has the power to change the world in ways small and large. Because in the end, I believe the greatest long-term challenge that we face as a country isn't the economy or inequality. It isn't the specters of war or terrorism or climate change, as pressing as those are. It's cynicism, that disgust that turns good people away from the public square and seeds the decisions that will shape the future to caustic radio bloviators, big money, special interests, and short-sighted politicians. Robert Kennedy, who was one of my heroes, said, "The future is not a gift, it's an achievement. Every generation helps make its own future. This is the essential challenge of the present." So as you look at the world around you, don't just accept the future you get. You have the power and responsibility to help shape it. And as dispiriting as our politics can sometimes be, what I've seen in you gives me hope, because your generation refuses to succumb to that cynicism. You volunteer in more ways and higher numbers than ever before. You engage in new, exciting ways that most of us don't understand unless we have a 25-year-old assistant to explain it to us. You're anxious for us to get out of the way so you can heal our politics, our people, our planet. One of the most inspiring aspects of my journey with President Obama was the essential role young people played in his improbable election. It was people your age who built a movement, house by house, block by block, town by town. It was people your age who toiled from before dawn to past midnight, worked for free, gave up good jobs to help. It was people your age who possessed an enthusiastic idealism, the likes of which I hadn't seen in American politics in 40 years. When pundits and pollsters and cynics and skeptics said Barack Obama couldn't possibly win, it was people your age who said, yes, we can. And through those efforts came health reform that has meant coverage for 20 million more Americans, essential investments that helped spawn the renewable energy industries of the future, and other steps to slow the scourge of climate change, an end to centuries of discrimination against gay and lesbian Americans, a new commitment to diplomacy as a tool of American power. It was people your age who changed the world, just as it always has been. That's why I founded the Institute of Politics at the University of Chicago, to encourage more young people to grab the wheel of history and steer. I wanted to inspire and be inspired by young people like you, committed to the world around them. It's another exciting and unexpected chapter in my life. So in closing, class of 2016, all I ask is that whatever else you do, engage in the world around you. Keep inspiring us right now, today, more than ever. Commit your hands to restoring the public faith, because before long it will be the public's faith in you. That's how you'll be measured, as graduates of this institution, as citizens of this nation, as representatives of this entire generation, by the future you make. Make us proud. Congratulations, class of 2016. I wish you all the happiness and hope in the world.